Well, good afternoon, everybody. Kufar Akbar. Welcome to another edition to the Crossing the Crescent discussion group. This is a live stream show that is brought to you every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time until about 6 o'clock. I don't know. My brain's not clicking here. I forgot a line. I said we're supposed to be a show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. That's why I got it mixed up there. I mean, wait a second, I forgot to say something. And we are coming to you live from Dar al-Harb, Kafiristan, deep within the cavernous cave, or the Kafir cave. God, you know what I need to do? I need to write this down. That way I don't miss it. When I was doing the radio thing on Blog Talk Radio, I didn't miss a step. Boom, 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 because I just read it right off the script every day. But when you try to memorize it, you don't do so good. But welcome to the show, everybody. We are so glad to see you. Let me jump over to the chat. There's a bunch of chat that I don't see in there. Thank you, everybody over in chat coming today. Let me say this in the chat. With the mods in chat. I received a complaint. I know you're shocked. I received a complaint that we were not fairly treating the Muslims that come to the show in chat. I'm just saying. So because they were being disrespectful and all this, that, and the other thing.
We must give them their due jizya. We must submit to them. We must give up our seat. We must cross the other side of the road. You kafirs, don't you understand?
They mostly run. They don't last too long on the chat. They just run.
Well, here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. I would say that if somebody is purposely hurling insults. Let me just say this. If you're purposely hurling insults at somebody, try to keep it at no. We can do a lot better than just insulting the individual. Now, that if we are going to talk about Islam, and when you're talking about Islam, let me make sure I say this correctly so everybody understands that the kafir's not selling you out or throwing you under the bus or anything. Because I completely agree. If we're going to talk about Islam, we're going to go with why we are not Muslims. And that includes, especially me, I'm not a Muslim because of Muhammad, number one. There is nobody in the history of man that has such a favorable rating that lives such a repugnant life.
I can't understand how the word favorable even fits with him.
Well, I mean, if you have a billion people in the world, after they say his name, may peace. They also say may peace and blessings be upon him. So I think he has a favorable rating. I think we could say that. But knowing what we do about where did that come from? Rad. Thank you, Rad. I appreciate that. Yeah, like, share, subscribe to the chair. I'm my worst agent. Okay, so. If we're going to be talking about Islam, that's free game. That is free game, because the man, as far as I was concerned, he was a murderer, encouraged people to murder. He was a rapist. He enslaved people. He did all these things. We can sit here and we can go down the laundry list of things that Muhammad did.
I mean, he stole his adopted son's wife and stopped people from adopting by doing that.
Like I said, we can go through a whole laundry list of things that this man did. I am not going to pretend that I have any respect for him. Because I don't. And I want to make sure that Muslims that come to the show know that that's my honest opinion. That is my honest point of view. I will do my best not to be purposely offensive, but when we do talk about this man, it's going to be offensive because I know how you regard him. And if that's the case, well then, maybe you should not engage, because that is my personal opinion. But I have my reasons for it. It isn't just like, I hate Muhammad. It's not like that. I think that the man, what he taught is leading billions of people straight to hell. And it is my hope that those souls, by exposing what he said, what he did, are rescued from that from that eternity of damnation. Okay. What I want to do here first is I want to make a couple little admin notes. Our friend Jay over at Jay Apologetics got his YouTube channel deleted. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. Evidently, he got reported by a bunch of trolls for copyright violations and had his channel taken down. So if you go over to, it's Jay and Daughter of Christ YouTube, you'll see his new channel. He's trying to get his subscribership back up. He'll be posting videos. I think he's going to be uploading videos that they had previously made, and then they're going to continue to do live streaming and all those things. So if you can get over there and give him subscribe to his channel and give him a like, anything to get that new channel back into the algorithm, because he is indeed the gold standard when it comes to polemics. Him and Daughter of Christ both are absolutely spectacular. And
I just posted.
Yeah,
I just posted the link in the chat. So
subscribe. Very good. Okay. All right. Next point. Next week we are having another debate. We're going to be debating Nadir Ahmed. Nadir's been on the show a couple of times. It's been quite a while since he's been on the show, but he's debated. He's debated everybody. He debated Michael Brown. If you all remember how that went, he's debated. David.
We got to tell the background story on that. So the week before, or maybe it was the day before, he debated Michael Brown. Wasn't he on our show? It was either a week or day before, and he was with Bob the Builder, and he gave the same argument that he gave on Michael Brown's show, and Bob the Builder just tore him apart. It was just a laughing stock. And then he goes on Michael Brown's show and gives the same argument. And Michael Brown actually said, "Is this a joke? Are you setting me up? I mean, are you seriously going to make Islam look bad?"
Well, actually,
I thought it was a prank.
Well, what I remember specifically when he was talking to Dr. Michael Brown, who has a terminal degree in Hebrew linguistics. Oh, by the way, he did misrepresent himself. He was, if I can't remember exactly how he portrayed it, but it was a misrepresentation. And Michael Brown was like, "Look, if you wanted to have this discussion, something else, or have a formal debate, let's do it. But this is not this anyway." Anyway. We all know who I think Nadir is infamous. I don't know how you pronounce it, but he's going to be on the show next week, and we're going to have a moderated debate on the crucifixion of Christ. So we'll see how that goes, or how he does with that. And then lastly, let's do this here. Okay, today is about Quran's historical errors. And let me just say this: these are not, there's all kinds of different laundry lists out there that you can go through as far as, the historical errors in the Quran. Here's a list, boom, 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 boom. And you can get all kinds of short, blurbs about them. Today, I just want to have a discussion about them and see what you all think about them. What your thoughts are. And I only have 10, I think maybe 11. I don't have a lot. But if you go through there are all kinds of historical errors in the Quran. I mean, I don't want to say it's low-hanging fruit, but it's low-hanging fruit.
Because the thing is, with the Quran, why on earth should you trust a book that's 700, like says something like the Exodus is, say, 1600 BC, and there's no way, or 1600, or like the time that says Thutmose the Third, and essentially, when we're dealing with like his history, you want something that's closer to the source. So why on earth you don't trust anything written in something like 700 AD that's commenting on the life of, say, Jesus, or any like, why on earth should you take it seriously on any historical subject at all? Because it's not an early source. It's not classed as an early source at all. and it doesn't have any leniency at all in like the scholarly like the scholarly world. I mean, if we're dealing with someone like Noah, I mean, if we're dealing with like 4000 BC, that Genesis is written in the early Bronze Age. There's a lot more time difference between, say, something early than something later. So it's essentially you can't deal with something that early. Like why should you believe the Quran say it's 700 AD when you have a lot more earlier sources in the actual scriptures, and we have the archaeology to back it up?
Well, Dominic, I would just refer you over to the private chat and just take a look and see what I wrote there. And let's just kind of keep that to ourselves. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump in on this one. Where's my button? There we are. All right. Number 1, Ezra. We all know Ezra. Sure we do. Ezra is famous for returning to Jerusalem and rebuilding the walls there, rebuilding the gates, rebuilding the temple, reinstituting the worship system there in Israel. But the Quran says that that the Jews said that Ezra was the son of God. Now, this is a problem. Because if you look at this verse, look what it says here. The Jews call Ezra a son of Allah, and Christians.
Well, they got his name wrong first. Let's be honest here. They can't even say Ezra. That's Uzair. Who's Uzair? I have no idea who Uzair is.
It's the same thing with Isa. I mean, who in the heck is this Isa character? But yeah, I agree. But they say, well, it's an Islamic translation. No, it's not.
That's bullcrap. We know it.
Let's just. Okay. What was I saying here? I just read something in chat, and I got kind of distracted. Sorry. But what they're doing here is they're saying that Jesus Christ, the way that the Christians worship Jesus Christ or refer to Jesus Christ as the Son of God, the Jews refer to Ezra as the Son of God. So the question becomes, which group of Jews? Because we all know that this is a false accusation. Ezra was a priest. He was a scribe. The people loved him, but they did not refer to him as the Son of God. Period. The Jews never claimed that he was the Son of God. Now the question is that, well, where does this come from? And of course, before you make a claim like that, saying that the Quran is wrong, you want to go in and do a little research on your own and look this up. So I did go look this up. I have the article here. What did I do with it? I have it here. I have it here somewhere. I think this is it. This may be it. Yeah, this was by. Oh, I didn't write it down. I didn't put it on here. I think it was Jonathan Brown. He was one that, anyway, he refers to a book, the 4th book of Ezra. Now, did you know that, okay, in the Bible, you only have one book of Ezra, right? Right. Okay. So this is what we would call an extra biblical book. I can't remember the proper name for these types of books. But he says it's kind of on the lines
apocryphal?
Of the book. It's not apocryphal. I know what you mean by that, but I can't remember. But anyway, it's second Esdras, and what he's basically saying is that in this extra book, this is where they say that. But even here, it does not say that. They call him the Son of God. So, even with that, the Quran is wrong. Now, I remember we had an imam.
Apocalyptic book, it says.
Is that what it's known as? An apocalyptic? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We had an imam on here from Houston, quite a while ago, since he picked up a band from Kafiristan. Who made this claim on the show and said, look, that's not an error. There was a Jewish group that did worship Jesus or not Jesus, I'm sorry, Ezra as the Son of God. So you do a pause and you say, okay, you're going to have to cite that one for me, baby, because it's not there. And he says, and I told him, I said, look, I'll go looking for it, knowing that it's not, you can't find any group out there. This is the same thing as saying that the Injil was given to Jesus, and we're referring to the Injil.
It's true Islamophobia at its finest. It's true.
Exactly what it is, and I appreciate that. I didn't know he was in the audience here. Who let him in? Did you let him in? Anyway, this is something that you just cannot make up and say, well, look, we haven't found it yet. Well, we don't have any Jews writing about this, and if you talk to, Jews are pretty. They're pretty concise in their writings, and as far as knowing what is available and what is not available, and differentiating between what is canonical, what is not canonical, what is not akin to Midrash, Mishnah. They're able to distinguish between that. And here you don't have any mention of Ezra being called the Son of God. And even if there were, and let's just grant this, let's just pretend here. CP says something. I go with you, or I go along with you, or I go. Somebody said that CP says that. Okay, I go with you on this. All right, I'm going to go with you on this one. And let's say that there was a sect out there similar to the Carolingians with the worshiping Mary as part of the Trinity or whatever. What if? Why would you refer to such a small sect as being representative of the entirety of the people? For example, and this is compare and contrast here. Look at what it says. It says the Christians call Christ the Son of Allah. Why would you say it? Because all Christians call Jesus. Is there a Christian group out there that does not refer to Jesus as the Son of God? Does anybody know of one?
Non-existent.
In the chat, maybe. Again, even if there were a small group, why would you use a small group as being representative of the whole? That makes zero sense, especially if this book is supposed to be clear and explaining everything. It doesn't, because this would be an allusion to something that only a small sect would do, even if they do name somebody, and they don't. You can't find it out there. So that is the first historical error of the Quran. Let's go to the second one, shall we? Does anybody have anything want to add to that? Maybe I left out anything they want to put on there. Hey, Rad, can you do me a favor and go check and see if we are live? Are we live on Rumble?
We should be, but I'll check.
Okay, because I see the icon up here. I didn't know if I set it up right, or did you set that up?
Oh, it as long as there's nothing there with like an eye that looks like it says it's not working, it's working.
Okay.
I had that happen.
Here's the funny thing. I was wondering who set that up, because I forgot, and then I went this morning and it was set up, but you didn't add it in StreamYard.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know.
Did you? Yeah, it's real simple. Once you set it up in Rumble, then you just go, when you're setting up, you click on the icon for
green key.
Rumble, the green icon, and then it gives you a drop down, and then you just select the stream. That's that simple.
And which stream do I select?
The one that you just created.
The Rumble. You select when you set up your StreamYard, you select Rumble, but you have to go back and get the stream key.
Okay. You think that StreamYard would fix something like that? For Pete's sake, get it right. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one is Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Yes, my favorite little fairy tale. When you look at the Quran, it talks. This story includes talking birds that drop rocks on. It's your first, strike group of F-35s dropping rocks on their enemies. You have talking ants even in that. You have a hoopty bird that is like a courier. And then it has genies, and uses black magic. Now, the thing about this is that, okay, you can make an argument to some other stories in the Bible where you have demons, you have demon possession. I think we could all agree with that. And people using incantation, using witchcraft, things like that. Okay, but a talking, because we have a talking donkey. Does anybody remember what story that comes from? Balaam.
Balaam's
Balaam.
donkey.
Balaam. Is that
donkey,
it? Yeah. Okay. What book is that found in? Does anybody know? I didn't go.
It's Numbers.
Okay. Because I remember I said, okay, we got a talking donkey. The book of Revelation, we have 7-headed monsters. The Bible does have these types of things in them, but here you have the Quran trying to copy off of the Bible, the biblical story, and this is where where Muhammad gets it all wrong. The man couldn't read. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And so when you can't read, you can't really understand what you're trying to explain. And you know what? Let me see if I could conduct a poll. Let me see if I can conduct a poll here in chat, because there's been a lot made, big to do about, Muhammad couldn't read. Muhammad was illiterate. How many people think Muhammad? Let me make sure I write this. Okay, if you think Muhammad could read, write yes in the chat. If you think that Muhammad was indeed illiterate, write no. Yes, thank you, Connie. I see that. Yep. Thank you, Dominic, for putting that in there. She asked Balaam. There you go. All right. Yes or no? No. Muhammad could not read. Well, when you get to it, go ahead.
I have a problem with that because he supposedly was a businessman, so he had to have known, unless he had somebody explaining.
Right, yeah. That's why I think he could read. And in order to look at bills of lading, inventory, things of this nature, and plus
I don't
the numbers.
I don't think he could. I don't think he was very good in math. I think that's one of the reasons why he wasn't I don't think he was a good salesman. He couldn't even keep details. So I mean,
Islamophobia
if he could
at
read,
its finest.
he couldn't put it.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
because
No, let me just-
there's not the numbers in, from my understanding, the numbers in Arabic are not represented numbers. They're like letters. I might be wrong on that. I don't know.
It would be the same. It would be the same thing for Hebrew, but he can't add, he can't subtract, he can't multiply, he can't divide. I mean, we're lucky if they're basic math that he can't do. It's scary. Fractions he's totally lost on, which is stuff he would have to know in order to do the job he was supposed to have if he existed. I mean, I'm at the point where I don't believe he existed. I think it was created. Islam was created afterwards, but
well, I think the world is slowly getting there. That case is becoming stronger and stronger as we go on. My username over at Rumble, Nico, is Eric Theckefer. Look for Eric Theckefer.
Because there is a hadith where it doesn't the angel Gabriel command him to read, and if he was,
I cannot read, or what shall I? Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. It's something like Al-Bukhari. I'm trying to find the actual kind of quote.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. Whether he could read or write is not really the issue for me. The issue for me is these morons who follow him actually think that it's a sign of nobility that someone actually right. Like, this is the greatest example of mankind. He could not read or write. He could not learn how to read and write in over 50-something odd years, okay? No one bothered to teach him how to read and write. And they somehow think this is a great, virtuous thing. But yet, even though he is the greatest example of mankind, they are to follow him down to how he went to the bathroom, okay, and how he walked into the bathroom and how he left the bathroom, whether he shook it once or shook it twice or shook it 3 times. It don't matter when he was done, whether he used 2 or 3 stones to clean himself. They have to follow him, and that is a good deed that will get them to Jannah. But somehow, The fact that they say that this nobleman who could not read, who was illiterate, somehow they are better than him because they all like to learn how to read and write. They could do what their noble and righteous and pious and best example to mankind could not do. That to me is just pathetic, people. Just
When I
pathetic.
was in Europe, there were imams that were very upset that many Muslims who couldn't read and write were saying it was, well, because of Muhammad, why we don't need to read and write, and they were upset.
Yeah, we're just following the sunnah.
They
There you
just-
go.
They just follow the actual illiterate prophecy with their illiteracy is the
Yeah.
Well, let me. Okay, what I from what I understand, what it says in the Quran, it is they follow the unlettered prophet, and what that can be translated or interpreted to mean. So, when in the context of what it's written, is unlettered in Jewish and Christian scriptures, is what it supposedly can. Some people would say that it could. I'm just saying that
Some people take it that way, but
supposedly could.
most of them sit there and literally think that this is a sign from Allah because he couldn't read and write. So how did he know all this miraculous stuff about sperm coming from between the rib and the backbone? If he didn't know how to read and write, how could he have read this? Yeah,
I would
because
never
Because he
figure that out.
had temporal lobe epilepsy. He had these hallucinations.
sound like a
or he was a master in plagiarism.
Oh,
It's
there you
the-
go. I think those two go together. You have to make something up and then have a hallucination to back it up.
Okay, well, the bottom line is that even if he did not know how to, or even if he did know how to read and write, he definitely didn't have a grip on what the Bible taught. Because when we look at what the Bible teaches on this, well, okay, first off, here, let me put this up here. First off, this is a plagiarized story, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to make a comparison here in just a minute of the Second Targum of Esther, which is an early 7th century prior to Islam writing. Oh, by the way, and the story here. So it's another one of those examples of plagiarism. But when we look at Solomon spoke of tree, not to trees or heard from trees. He spoke of trees, is what it says. Same thing with the hyssop springs out of the that comes out of the wall. He also spoke of, and not to animals or heard from animals or birds or whatever. He spoke of them to the Queen of Sheba. And what he was doing is he was showing her what a brilliant man he truly was. So when you look in First Kings and Second Chronicles, you can see that she was impressed with his knowledge and that it had to come from God. And so she ends up giving God the glory for him and becoming a convert. But when we look at this, here you have the Quran, and we talk and also the Second Targum method. You have two writings. You have one that dates back to the 2nd century, and then one that dates to early 7th century. Just in case you want to know why I have that up there. But here you have birds, and then you have a hoopty over here. You have they call it a red cock, but it can be renamed to hoopty. You have the hoopty going missing. Over here you have the going missing. Tarried not far away, and then you have a woman ruling. They hear about this woman ruling the kingdom, and then because there's a lot to it. That's why we're kind of going through this kind of fast. And then let's see, here from Solomon sends the hoopty bird down to her. Let's see here, where do I have it? And this is kind of the kicker that really seals Muhammad's fate. Because it ends when she arrives to see King Solomon. She saw what she thought was water, but it was not water. It was glass. Well, that's what they have in the Second Targum of Esther. She, again, thinking it was a glass floor, lifts up her dress, and it's glass. It's not water. So, and then Solomon, the second Targum Esther said that she had hairy legs. So you have all kinds of similarities here. You have Solomon, you have Queen of Sheba, you have a castle, you have a bird, you have a floor of glass, which is supposed to be water, and her lifting dress. So you have all kinds of different, you have all kinds of points of congruence here between the two stories. We can see it was clearly plagiarized. There's all kinds of plagiarisms in the Quran. If you ever want a good book on this, it's by St. Clair Tinsdale. If you ever want to go through a lot, like you can see that I've spent some time in it because I have no life, but I've done a lot of reading.
What's the book? So I'm just the front, the original source of the Quran. Okay.
Yeah. And also there's two different versions of it that were sold. One is like only 120 pages, which is, I don't know, maybe the clip notes part of it. This one's over the one that I have. Get the one with over 200 pages. It's more explanative and it has more information in it. Okay. Does anybody have anything where they want to comment about jinn, black magic, hoopty birds, talking ants? No.
Yeah,
no?
The jinn is fascinating to me. Jinn actually, because this related to Jay and Daughter of Christ, their channel, which unfortunately they lost these great episodes they did. They had one where actually I think one of the ones that got a ban, she's reading from actual translation that she did of these women in Saudi Arabia who go to get jinns, lusty jinns, removed because they're being sexualized and having sex with jinns in the night. Yeah, they really believe this stuff. But it actually turns out that the jinn exorcist is actually the one that's raping them, but it's all to get the evil jinn, the lusty jinn out. So he's taking the jinn out as he's having sex with her. I'm not making this up, dude. You can go ask Jay and Daughter of Christ. This is like real stories. Yeah.
Darcy. They're virgins.
Virgins, yes.
There we go.
But no, these people are so bizarre.
That's
in their beliefs, yes.
That sounds, that doesn't it? Anyway, okay. So again, this is a historical error made by Muhammad. Okay, this next one's really this is kind of apropos for next week when we start talking about the crucifixion. And I'm not even going to cover the crucifixion of Christ today being a historical error. I'll wait till next week in order to rehash all of that information that I put. And I didn't get what I was kind of disappointed in is I didn't get any requests for that slideshow because I told everybody, I said, if you want a copy of this slideshow where I provide you all of these sources with an explanation, not only the extra biblical sources, but also the biblical references for the crucifixion of Christ, let me know and I'll send it to you. So if you guys want it, I don't mind. I mean, it's just 3 clicks is all it takes in order to send it to you. ericthecafer@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to send that out to you free of charge. You don't have to donate or anything. Okay, so crucifixion. Let's talk about Quranic crucifixion, and we're not even going to go to the crucifixion of Christ. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on the crucifixion of Pharaoh. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put. Oh, let me put this in here. I forgot. Somebody remind me to talk about Joseph and coins being sold into slavery. Remind me to talk about that. I forgot to put that one in here. I knew. It just occurred to me. Okay, crucifixion. So when we look at what the Quran says that the Pharaoh would crucify people at the time of Pharaoh. Now this occurs at the time of the pharaohs from ancient Egypt. Well, if you look in the Encyclopedia Britannica, crucifixion was not invented until around 500 BC. And when we think of when this occurs, there's like 3 or 4 different spots where it talks about the Pharaoh prescribing crucifixion or having people crucified. And one of them, two of them, I think I can't remember how many there are specifically, but it talks about crucifixion at the time of Joseph, when Joseph is in the presence of Pharaoh, and he talks about crucifying the baker or the cupbearer. I can't remember which one it references. That's 1800 BC. And then it also talks about crucifixion being used at the time of Moses, which would be 1450, 1500 BC. When was crucifixion invented, folks? Look at right here. Even the Encyclopedia Britannica, which I don't consider a very credible source when it comes to things Islamic, says that it wasn't invented until around 500 BC. And when we're talking about invented, we're obviously speaking about the time where it is widely used or is at least discussed. That's when we find it used and being discussed, is around 500 BC. That's 1,000 years off, folks. That's at least 1,000. That is in the time of Joseph. That's 1,300 years off. Nobody mentioned it. Now there is a reference. I don't know if I have this in here. Where it nope, I don't have it in here. But there's a reference to where it is the Pharaoh is known as the Pharaoh of stakes or something like that. And the rescuing device that they came up with, the rescuing device that they came up with as well. What this is talking is about is using people being impaled. Folks, if you know anything about punishments used in antiquity and beyond, impaling somebody is much different than crucifying somebody. Much different. Impaling, you don't languish on that thing for days. If you are impaled, you usually bleed out pretty quickly because of the internal injuries that occur. With crucifixion, you languish for days on that cross. And so these two are not even anywhere near to being close as the same thing.
But
So,
Eric, they had the 11 herbs and spices that heal the crucifixion, even death on the cross. Don't you know that?
yes,
That's
I
how
remember
Jesus
that.
did
That's
with
where
us.
is that when
11 herbs.
Shabir Ali's talking about
Yeah.
how they
Yeah, yeah.
we're going to take aloe to the cave and rub
That's
it on
right.
his skin that's
And
been
other spices
ripped to
and
shreds.
myrrh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Because it's basically called the swoon theory, isn't it? The swoon theory, that's what it's commonly termed as. And the swoon theory has been deep for years. It's like one after they even bring it up. It's like if you're going to
Yeah, they fluctuate between the swoon theory and it making it look like Jesus.
Yeah, and I'll be discussing that next week. But the swoon theory it cannot be correct, and the reason why is because Romans did not. I mean, if that person did not die on that cross, you would die. I mean, that when we think of military order and discipline, the Romans were ruthless, folks. This is why they call them the Iron Legions of Rome. These guys were very disciplined. And as a soldier, you're going to know if that person is going to die. And we've talked about this several times. You have to be an idiot not to know this by now if you watch the show. And I don't want to call people idiots. Sorry. I'm going against my own little rules here. But anyway, if you are being crucified, you're hanging. What kills you is that you suffocate. It isn't bleeding out. It's suffocation. If you cannot push up to exhale, you're going to suffocate. So if you're just hanging there for 15, 20, 30 minutes, they know you're dead because you cannot breathe. And if you're not breathing, guess what happens? You die. So if you're hanging there and not moving, they know you're dead because in order to continue to live, you have to push up. This is why they broke the legs of the both of the thieves on each side of Jesus, is to speed up this process. Because if your legs are broke and you're trying to push up, those bones are going everywhere and you can't push up and you suffocate. That's how they knew that they would kill them before the Sabbath came. So this idea of swoon theory is stupid. Plus, if you got somebody running a spear through your heart and lungs, this isn't like surgery, folks. This is, you're going to bleed out internally, for crying out loud. So it's really, the swoon theory is probably the dumbest theory, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens next week anyway. Okay, a couple other things I wanted to add, or one more thing I wanted to add to this. If everybody would open their Quran to chapter 5, verse 33, where it talks about punishing people for creating fitna in the land, creating not trouble, what's corruption. There we go, corruption, creating corruption in the land. Allah, the God of the universe, says that if you create corruption in the land, fitna in the land, you are to have both your hands and feet cut off on opposite sides or be crucified. So here you have the God of the universe agreeing with the Pharaoh, essentially, is what you're doing. So Muhammad has the Pharaoh and the God of the universe prescribing the same type of punishment. It's sick. It's a historical error, a obvious historical error, and also it kind of gives you a little insight onto the mind of the author of the Quran, and it's definitely not God. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Because I was trying to find, because you know the book, is it The Case of the Resurrection? By Gary Habermas and Mike Licona. Because in that book he kind of states the aspect of the medical condition of the actual aspect of the cross. There's no way that you'd actually survive even like the actual I've got the book. I'm just trying to find the exact quote that I'm trying to find.
I have the book. I don't have to go looking for it. But I know what you're talking about. As a matter of fact, when I was preparing for that debate 2 weeks ago, I was going through some of the items that they had brought up in there. If you guys want a good read, I forgot to mention this. Connie redid our intro, so I wanted to give her a public thank you, ma'am, for getting that done, so we don't get reported. Because evidently, if you show a picture of Al Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, and Adolf Hitler sitting together, evidently that's hate speech.
Is Connie in the room with us?
No. Let's see here.
She said she left for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Lady, go sit your behind down in the corner somewhere until we call your name. Lady, go sit your behind down in the corner somewhere until we call your name. Lady, go sit your behind down in the corner somewhere until we call your name.
Okay. Somebody tell Kenny to shut up. All right. I may please allow yourself the first and last word in the debate, which really became.
You know something? When we're not showing pictures of the truth, that means we're following Sharia law. You know, they want us to follow Sharia law because criticizing, they're seeing that as criticism of, something Islamic or what they have done.
Oh, you're talking about YouTube and their community standards?
Yeah. So that means that they got some Muslims, some jihadists.
Trust and safety team. Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's just kind of the game that we're sentenced to play, unfortunately, and I really hate it. But if this is the platform that you're going to use, and this is the game that you're going to play, like Rad has said, go over to Rumble if you can, and set up an account there, because there you don't have to worry about this nonsense of these jihadis coming at you. Okay, Rad, what did you do? Are you up here twice? Or yeah, you're in here twice. Now you're only once. Okay, so Allah the Crucifier. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is the Tower of Babel and Haman. Now Haman is he appears in the Quran in chapter 28, verse 38, and chapter 40, verses 36 and 37. And here's what it says. Pharaoh said, "O nobles, you have no other God that I know of except myself. O Haman, make me bricks of baked clay and build for me a tower that I might climb to the God of Moses, for I think he's a liar." Okay, so here we have Muhammad getting, I don't know how many things wrong here. Number one, towers did not exist in Egypt. This is a historical fact. This is an archaeological fact. They do not have towers in Egypt. The second, and they built pyramids out of hewn stones is another thing. But right here, this is kind of an interesting thing. It says up here, baked clay. They did not use baked clay. They used baked clay in the Babylonian Empire with Nebuchadnezzar. If you remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. Well, what fire are they in? Well, they're in a kiln. They're in a furnace to bake clay. But in the time of Moses, what did the Pharaoh use? Remember he took away the straw because they were making clays. They were sun dried. They were I think you say baked. I guess they baked bricks. Were not used in Egypt. They were sun-dried bricks. I don't know what you would call them, but they did not bake them. Here we are. This says sun-dried bricks is what they are. So when we look at the Tower of Babel occurs in Genesis. He's thinking of Nimrod, not Haman. This is Nimrod. So he's getting, when we're talking about using a book like the Bibles, and you're saying, okay, well, the Quran is the criterion coming to correct the Bible. So what he's essentially saying is that, okay, the Quran, this is what Muslims will say. They said the Quran comes to fix the corrupted Bible, that Bible's been so corrupted. So what they're saying is that, okay, this corrupted Bible has the Tower of Babel in the wrong location. The Tower of Babel did not occur it occurred in Egypt. Moses was at the Tower of Babel. Don't you see? And let's see, the Tower of Babel would have probably been around what, 2200, 2300 BC, maybe 2400 BC. And Moses is 1400 BC, 1500 BC. That's 1,000 years. So they're way off on the time.
And then you have Haman, which is like even
Haman. We're getting to that.
So yeah, like you could have got them completely wrong time period.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah.
Okay, so this tower is in southern Iraq, is where it is. So they're not. They're not in Egypt, and they're using bricks, the wrong kind of bricks to build it. So Muhammad is screwing up the biblical account of this. Now, is that a historical error? Well, if you consider the Bible to be a reliable book when it comes to commenting on history, yeah, this is definitely a historical error. And when let's see, many centuries from the time of the pharaohs, okay, anachronism. Okay, here's another one about this story here, right here. Haman was a minister, is said to be a minister at the court of Pharaoh that reigns at the time of Moses. The problem with this, just as Dominic was alluding to, historically, this is a name that we find later. It was not used at the time of Moses. And more importantly, it's not an Egyptian name, but it is a unique Babylonian name, folks. This is an important thing to understand. We have all kinds of archaeological evidence from Egypt. We have a ton of it. And the reason why is because of the arid conditions, was able to preserve it. Not one piece of archaeological evidence from Egypt of all the names we have. Like, for example, if you go to, there's a tell in Goshen where they found a ledger of some sort, and it had all kinds of names in it. And many of the names that were in this ledger were Semitic, which gives a good indication that the Jews lived there at one time.
Yeah, but you silly kafir. Don't you know that the lack of evidence in Islam is evidence of its perfect preservation, of its miracle? I mean, seriously, don't you understand the reason why there's no evidence for any of Islam's claims is because the Quran says the Jews wiped it out because the Jews knew Muhammad was coming. They were waiting all this time for their prophet. So when he finally came, they destroyed all evidence of him. Don't you see this? Alhamdulillah. Take the shahada.
Okay. Yeah. It's a Jewish conspiracy. That is a rescuing device. As far as I was listening to a Muslima talking to, I think it was to God Logic last week, this week, or whatever, and she said all of the evidence for the Injil was destroyed by the Roman Catholic Church.
Because the problem with that is that you've got Daniel Wallace's evidence that you've got manuscripts that date all the way back to the 2nd century, and it's like kind of any Muslim that states that is kind of it's stupid. It's like we've got manuscripts that date earlier than that. I was up in St. Catherine's Monastery and I was seeing, like, you can go and see manuscripts today, like from the 2nd, 3rd century. Like up in Manchester, we have P45, the John Rylands fragment, that dates from the 2nd century. You have early manuscripts of Paul that date from the Chester Beatty Library, that date that for. It's like why do Muslims even bring this up? Because we've got the whole Bible before the 7th century anyway. So
well, it's not only that. I mean, think about this. So you got the Byzantine Church and the Latin Church. These two were not friendly with each other during the time of Muhammad. Okay. Actually, for some time, okay? Actually, a lot of the Crusades were Crusades against the Byzantines. They sacked Constantinople a couple times. You know what I mean? So either way, how are you going to destroy this evidence of the Islamic Injil? You know, they are just so, desperate. And I can tell you, I'm sorry. This is one of the reasons why I am a Calvinist. Is because you can rationalize with these people all you want. You can show them all the evidence, and it is supernatural. God says no. You will not believe this. You know what I mean? It really is to me. I mean, that's the only way it explains it. You know? But anyway, that's just me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, again, I don't see how you just can continually make things up and say, well, the evidence was destroyed. When you have clear archaeological evidence showing, number one, that the name Haman is not Egyptian. It's a Persian name or a Babylonian name. And Haman, in this case, the historical records of the biblical testimony, he doesn't live until the 5th century BC. Here you having him live 1500 BC. This is 1,000 years off. And this is, I honestly believe that this is where Muhammad just could not keep his story straight when he was trying to, it's true. I mean, when you look at people that are dishonest, and I don't have a problem saying this at all. I believe that Muhammad was a dishonest charlatan. And when he went to tell these lies, he just could not keep these personages that he's inventing these stories about straight. And in the process, he hears all these things and they sound great. He just can't remember, okay, Haman was against the Jews. Oh, yeah, well, he must be with the Pharaoh because the Pharaoh also was against the Jews. So these two must have been so when he tells these stories to an illiterate culture, a culture that is, predicated on paganism, they said, "Oh, that sounds perfect to me. Why not?" They don't have a knowledge of it. But when he does go to tell it to the Bana Kanuka, the Bana Nadir, and the Bana Karaiza tribes, they're like, "You're a fraud. What the heck are you talking about? Haman's from Esther, and now you're saying he's with Pharaoh. Get out of here." So what does he do? Well, he kills them. That's always the quickest answer. Kill them. Or he exiled 2 of them.
Have you watched the Patterns of Evidence series to do with the Patterns of Evidence to do with the Exodus, where he kind of goes through the archaeology of the actual Exodus? It's
the movie Patterns of Evidence. Is that what you're saying?
Patterns of Evidence. Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have it here somewhere.
Because he's released more stuff on that. So there's also I've also put on the link the fact of that there's archaeology to do with Esther. So there's archaeology that dates, I think, in one of the Louvre. I can't remember which there's all the records to do with Esther, like from that time period. In one of the French museums, there's a channel that's done a 2-part series in one on the fact of the archaeology to do with Esther as well. So essentially, I mean, if you're Esther Heyman, it's like and like Babylon, it's just like you've got 3 completely different locations that are thousands of years apart. It's right. Like it just doesn't historically make any sense at all.
Well, here's what I was trying to think of a way. When you start having discussions with, because I got into it this week with one of my Facebook friends who's a Muslim, and I got to thinking about, and I don't mean to say this in like a derogatory way, but this is how I feel. Let's say you're trying to have a conversation with somebody about Shakespearean literature, and for example, maybe Hamlet or Macbeth or something like that, and you're talking about the tone and the depth of literary genius that Shakespeare had, and then the person that you're discussing this with wants to use, well, that sounds great, but I have this comic strip here, Charlie Brown, that I would really that is just as good and useful, and you can't. I mean, that's what you feel like sometimes, because when you're having people that it's obviously an obvious historical error here. You have a Babylonian name that is 1,000 years removed, and you have no evidence. You have zero evidence for anybody of that name being in Egypt at all, and this guy was an antagonist against the Jews, and then you put the two together. The Pharaoh was an antagonist against the Jews, and you use Haman, who was antagonist to the Jews. Muhammad just could not get it straight. So he said, well, the two must have collaborated against the Jews or something. I don't know. Okay. So patterns of evidence. If you Mahoney, I can't remember his first name.
Yeah,
Tim Mahoney. There you go. There's 4 movies he's made. He's made patterns of evidence.
It's like I think he's got one on Israel that's just coming out. I think it's one that's 6. Okay. So he's done 2 just on the Sinai.
Yeah, one of them deals with the how did Moses know how to write? It was called the Moses controversy, and the other one is the Red Sea crossing. I think he's got 2 on that. Okay, but they're informative. Like everything else, take it with a grain of salt. Weigh the evidence, weigh the sources, and the people that he has opining in them, and you come to your own conclusion. But he does a good job of presenting the information. Okay, our next favorite figure. You guys are going to like this one. Alexander the Great. Okay, so Alexander the Great, he was, of course, we all know he's this king of Macedonia, lived in the 4th century BC, great military leader, conquered almost the entire known world.
Great prophet in Islam, great pagan homosexual prophet in Islam. The best prophet in Islam.
Okay, get off of that. He's not trans. At least he's not trans. Get off of it. He's known as Dual Carnain, which is the 2-horned one. He gets this because he ruled both East and the West, and there is evidence of this of coins that showed him having 2 horns. Let's see, and the Quran presents him as this righteous man of God, and God spoke directly to him. If you go to chapter 18 and verses 83 to 98, here you have this conversation. But history, again, this is a historical error. History does not tell us that he was a good Muslim. And when I say good Muslim, folks, I am not even in the most liberal sense, because we all know Jesus was a Muslim, right? Right.
Like I said, he's my favorite homosexual drunk prophet of Islam. He really is.
Okay, your favorite one. Well, there must be many. when we think of him being a Muslim, there is no way in God's green earth that this guy is a Muslim. He was definitely not a monotheist. He was definitely not somebody that bowed to a rock in Mecca at all, or anything as such. So we know he was not a Muslim. So there's all kinds of
Eric,
different.
hold on a second.
What?
If they're saying that Alexander was a Muslim, aren't they saying that Islam was originally polytheistic?
Oh, that's a good point. That obvious thought never entered my little small brain.
Well,
Yeah,
they're the ones who talk about the Kaaba being filled with polytheism. So, yeah. They have a polytheistic prophet.
There you go.
Yeah.
That includes two of them. Okay, let's see here. He was right there. It's right here. He was a polytheist. Yep. And he said that he was the son of Ammon. He said he was the son of the sun god of Egypt. So this does not sound like somebody who is what you would say a Muslim or a very pious individual. What else have we got here? He said that he did not travel west as they claimed in the Quran. And also, I'm leaving out the part where it said that he traveled so far west. What did he find? The sun setting in a muddy pool of water. Yes. And the people nearby said, hello, I see you guys see the sun over here setting in the muddy pool. We'll see you in the morning. Okay. I can promise you he never found that. And also I would say when I was reading this in the Quran, it does not say as if, because that was a common argument that I've heard, that the sun was setting as if it was in a muddy pool of water. It does not say that. It does not say that. It says the sun was setting in a muddy pool of water. What else do we have on him? He made this big wall. Now, folks, this is what you should be focusing in on. He constructed this big wall made of iron and brass between two mountains, and it was going to last until the end of time. Okay.
And that's why the U.S. invaded Afghanistan, was to find the big wall and destroy the big wall so it would usher in the Dajjal. Don't you understand that? I mean, seriously, come on.
I was not read in on that op order. Sorry. Did not hear about it. Yeah, and this is how we know this is a historical error. This is a lie. Number one, there's no wall. There's no wall that was going to last until the end of time. And if I check my watch lately, there's still time. So we haven't reached the end of time yet. We haven't found this wall. But at the same time, we haven't found Noah's Ark either. But we haven't found Noah's Ark. Why? Because it's made of wood and it's probably completely dissolved. So I wouldn't plan on finding Noah's Ark anyway, because it's been over 4,000 years, 5,000 years, however many years you want to say. This was made out of brass and iron. This would leave what we'd say would leave a mark. This would leave some type of evidence. We would find this somewhere. Even with our little satellites beaming down on the earth, we would find something like there would be some type of evidence for this. So why does this appear in the Quran? Thank you for asking. Let's see here.
Isn't it bigger than the Great Wall of China, from what I've kind of heard?
No, it's taken from this right here. Here we go. Right here. This is a fictional legend from a Syrian author that wrote it around 521 BC or AD. And it's based on, what it was written was based on an ancient legend of Alexander the Great. So again, you have a plagiarized story appearing in the Quran, but not only is it plagiarized, and we don't want to sit there and go through all of the elements that have to be present in order to demonstrate plagiarism, but even if it's not plagiarized, Muhammad still has this wrong, because there is no wall that has been found, or nor will be found. I would say, as a matter of fact, let me just say this. Let me make sure everybody understands this. If they do find a wall like this, I will convert to Islam. I'm just saying, because I mean, if somebody is going to make up, I mean, such a fanciful story, no, I wouldn't convert to Islam. Let me take that back. There's no way I would bow to a rock in the desert 5 times a day. But let me just say this: it would definitely make me raise an eyebrow and say, well, maybe there is something to this Quran, or something along the yeah. Look at Rob. A plagiarized story in the Quran? Say it isn't so. It can't be right. Who would come up with such a lie? What a dastardly deed there. Okay. Does anybody want to add anything about Alexander the Great being a pious Muslim, which is a historical error? So you actually have 2 historical errors here. Number 1, Alexander the Great was not a pious Muslim. Alexander the Great was a pagan. Number 2, there is no wall here. And number 3, the sun does not set in a muddy, just for some of you flat earthers, the sun does not set in a muddy pool of water. Just saying. Okay, this next one you're all going to love. The magic pony ride. Quran says, glory to be him who made his servant go by night from the sacred mosque of Mecca to the furthest mosque, whose surroundings have been blessed. Okay, so this is called, not the Hijra, this is called the Mirage or whatever, something of those lines. Number 1, nobody witnessed this. Number two, this occurred in 620. This occurred in 620. There's no tangible evidence for this, but the thing that, let's see here, that caught my eye, is that the, it's like, okay, let me just, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. Number one, this mosque thought to be Jerusalem did not exist when this was supposed to occur. What was that? 620. This is supposed to occur in 620. It did not exist. The mosque that they're talking about, Al-Aqsa, was not started to be built until 691. They started building the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa at the same time. Al-Aqsa was not completed until 705. Some people put it at 715, but most people put it at 705 AD. Muhammad died in 632, folks. This is supposed to happen in 620. How can you ride a magic pony from Mecca all the way to Jerusalem? Number 1. Number 2, how can you go to a mosque and pray in a mosque that is not going to be built for 80 plus years? Number 2. And number three, you have no evidence for it. There's no evidence for this. None. Zero. Zippo. Zilch. This is nothing more than Uthman. No, Omar. I'm sorry. Let me get him right. Stealing land and having it justified by inventing this hadith, saying this was Jerusalem later on. So the construction did not. So they're off on this. This is anachronistic.
I'm not correcting kafirs. Don't you know that they have proof for the night journey? Because in the middle of the night, when the winged donkey jackass, when the winged whatever was returning with Muhammad,
the Buraq
made a terrible noise in the desert, which caused a camel to drop dead. And everybody heard it. And that is the proof that this really, really happened. It's true. It's true.
Our brother.
When I say this stuff, I mean this is what Muslims have told me over the years. I'm not making it up. This is actually what they believe.
Yeah, we also believe that elephants can fly as well. Big elephants can fly. So yeah.
Well, there's a story that's in the Quran that I did not put in this of elephants attacking Mecca.
Should we liken it to Dumbo, or do you think Dumbo is a better story than?
Well, I mean, think about it. How is an elephant going to get enough water? Period. I mean, if you only get 4 inches of water a year in Mecca, how is an elephant that drinks 20 gallons, 50 gallons a day going to survive? It makes
no sense. Islamic elephants.
Okay, let's jump back over here. Okay, so he did not pray in any mosque because the mosque was not, I mean, even the Dome of the Rock wasn't finished until 691, or they didn't start building it until 691. I think it was finished 693. The Jewish temple had been destroyed in 70 AD, so he wasn't praying there. And when you look at this, again, plagiarism. Please say it's not so, but this sounds just like a Zoroastrian story that was circulating before Muhammad. Let's see, it's 400 years before Muhammad in this book. Okay, so the bottom line is that here you have this night journey that nobody that they even Aisha. There's a hadith that Aisha says that he was here all night. He didn't go anywhere. So there are some people. I think there's a hadith that says that this was a vision. Well, if you're having a vision from God, I guess anything's possible. And that would be the only way that this would make sense if it was a vision. Unfortunately, most Muslims don't agree that it was a vision. Most Muslims think that this was an actual journey that Muhammad got on this pony, this Pegasus. And that's basically what it is. It is a winged horse, a winged flying animal that was very popular in folklore and legend at the time, in storytelling. And so this is what you get. A lot of these stories that occurred in these legends and lore, this is exactly what you would expect to find in a book of fiction like this. Okay, let's go to the next one, the Qibla. Qibla. This is where you have hard physical evidence. You have the Quran mandating that the prayer be changed facing Mecca. What year was this? It was 623. You have this. This revelation. This verse here. What is it? Well, it's in several places. That looks like where it was changed. Okay, fine. It was changed in 623. Remember, Mecca was still a pagan city in 623. Mecca, the Kaaba, still. Remember the stories that we hear how Muhammad went and when he conquered Mecca without firing a shot. That did not occur. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't that not occur until like 629 or something? Very late in his life, where he was finally able to go. So if this is changing the Qibla direction to Mecca, you're orienting your Qibla direction to a city that is still pagan, to a Kaaba that is still having all these pagan shrines in it. Why would you do that? Gee whiz, I don't know. Maybe you're making it up. And when you look at
maybe Islam again was polytheistic originally.
Well, I agree with you, Paul. I mean, that I think that is the obvious conclusion, is that it was just a set of practices, religious practices that were developed from a pagan culture, and they tried to adjoin them to something biblical, and that's exactly what looks like what happened here. Okay, so what I want to get to though is the evidence for this. Why we know this is a historical error, and we know this is historical error because of the archaeological evidence that we have. The archaeological evidence that we have today clearly shows that the earliest mosques did not face Mecca. None of them did. You do not have a mosque facing Mecca until the 8th century, folks. Well over 100 years, or maybe up to 100 years after the death of Muhammad, do you finally have a mosque facing Mecca. And I know there's this big controversy. So, oh, they're facing Petra. They're facing, out there, it's the Nabateans. If you want to make that argument, you go ahead. The bottom line is, I don't care. The bottom line is that they were not facing Mecca. So why is this a problem? Well, because the earliest mosque, if you were told to pray in this certain direction, and Paul, if you go to Paul's channel, the Sutlifian report, he's been going through very succinctly, what invalidates your prayer and how to pray. And if you're not facing the right direction, is that prayer validated? Is that prayer valid, Paul?
you can't, if you don't face the right direction, your prayer's invalid. If you fart, your prayer's invalid. There's so many things.
I would
There's
have a
so
definite problem. I would, because I get very gassy when I'm kidding.
Well, the part that kills me
get some whoopee cushions.
Hey guys,
what kind of
guys, I found out that there is this fart spray. Okay, the reason why I found out is evidently at one of the pro Hamas protests at Columbia University, somebody unleashed a canister of this stuff, this fart spray. You get it on Amazon. Oh, yeah, they freaked out. They thought the Israelis were using chemical weapons on them and all kinds of stuff. Turns out he was just playing a prank. He ordered it on Amazon for $26. Anyway, what I'm thinking is we get this cans of fart spray and we go into the mosque and we unleash.
Well,
go ahead, Paul.
The sad story here is that on my show, we were discussing this the first time. The sad, sorry truth is we were sitting here laughing on the show about how a fart could invalidate prayer. And somebody said, no, you don't understand. This is serious. They just lynched a guy in Pakistan for farting in a mosque.
Right, yeah.
So that should make you think.
Yep. Exactly. I was gonna.
Okay, cancel the fart bomb spray. I'm praying. Cancel the fart bomb spray.
Okay, I'm gonna show you what a loser I am. You ever get on Facebook and you see those short videos? You guys know what I'm talking about, like Facebook Shorts? Okay, there was this kid. He was playing a practical joke on his mom, and he left this bouquet of flowers on the front porch, or some type of flower on the front porch, supposed to be given by the dad. And he sprays it with this fart spray. And mom comes up. He comes up like 2 hours later, whatever, pulls up. He shows the car pulling in the driveway and her walking up the steps. And she sees it. She's like, oh, and she goes over and grabs it, takes a big old whiff of it. And she starts getting this gag reflex. And you're watching this poor woman knowing her son did this to her. What kind of sick joke would you do? Why would you do that to your mom? But anyway, the fart spray thing and the farting invalidating prayers. Yeah, that's all. Go to Paul's channel. We were going through the Sharia line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and it is in there. It's as long as the day is long. But when we look at this Qibla, okay, let's get back to the Qibla. The Qibla, folks, the Qibla direction being changed is very problematic, and being in the Quran instead of in the Hadith is very problematic, because here we know that the Quran is wrong as far as the Qibla direction is concerned, changing it to Mecca. Either that, or for a century Muslims didn't listen to the Quran and kept praying in the wrong direction. There are several mosques that we have, and let me just do this. Let me just do this right here. This is a great book written by Dan Gibson that talks about these Qiblas, and he provides all kinds of graphs, their directions. He has the floor plans, pictures of the floor plans, all kinds of documented evidences where these Qiblas all over the world are facing the wrong direction. We have archaeological evidence showing that the Qibla direction did not face Mecca for a century. And even then, it was a process of these mosques, when they were being constructed, eventually facing Mecca. Sometimes they were facing in between. Sometimes they're facing, who knows where they're facing, but they weren't facing Mecca for a full century. And I lift the sources up here that the article that I grabbed a lot of this information from had. The Wasit Mosque is off by 30 degrees. The Baghdad Mosque is off by 30 degrees. The Kufa Mosque, one of the earliest ones, folks. The Kufa Mosque is in Egypt. The Kufa Mosque. Somebody's got their okay. Kufa, if I'm not mistaken, is in Egypt. Am I correct on that? It's facing west. Anyway, it does not face south like it should. Kufa's not in Egypt. Kufa is it's in northern Arabia, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. But anyway, that one's facing the wrong direction. They're all facing the wrong direction. The Fawcett Mosque, that's what I was thinking of. The Fawcett Mosque is pointing north. Here, it's Egypt. Which direction? If you're building a mosque in Egypt, which direction should the Qibla be facing? I would think southeast. If that's just me. I mean, my geography. This is why I got the Kufa one mixed up, because it's the Fawcett Mosque in Egypt. It should be facing southeast. This one's facing north. Why is that? Well, because they did not have the idea that Mecca is supposed to be the actual place of the center of worship solidified in Islam. Okay, possible rescuing devices. I mean, look at some of the excuses they come up with. They said that the early Muslims are incapable of defining direction, which is not true. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why it's not true. All of the 7th century mosques that they built were facing Jerusalem. So they could find direction. If they're all facing Jerusalem and they're supposed to be facing this common direction, that tells us that you can find the direction. Arabs were very well astute to finding their way through Arabia. If you didn't, well, you died early. The early mosques of Iraq and Egypt were built by civilized people that were very familiar with direction. And, the only explanation that you can come up with is that the actual direction of the Qiblas of the early mosque of Jerusalem is that the Quran was in fluid formative stage, just as Paul was alluding to. And when we start, I don't want to get into all the details on that and, how the Quran developed and how a lot of this information has been redacted back upon its history. But it's obvious. It is obvious by of examining the archaeological evidence, especially for the Qibla directions, that there's something going on here, that it is not what it appears to be or said to be. Okay, this one's easy. David's coats of mail. David wore chainmail according to the Quran. Chapter 34, 10, and 11 said that he had a coat, armor of iron rings, and God made him soft iron. The problem with this is David lived around 1000 BC. David lived around 1000 BC. David lived about 1000 BC, and he has chainmail. The problem with this is that chainmail is not invented until around 400 or 300 BC by the Celts on a completely different continent. Let me re-say this. David is supposed to be wearing chainmail in 1000 BC. Chainmail is not invented until 700 years later by the Celts on a completely different continent. This is a historical error. This is an obvious historical error. This cannot be true. This would be written by somebody who has no idea of the historical development of armor. And folks, armor is very important to understand in its implementation and usage, especially as fast as warfare can advance in technology and its development. So this is something that you at least should know as just having a precursor understanding of military history. Muhammad obviously did not. He obviously did not know that chainmail was not developed at the time of David. He made an error. This is not. Hold on, Rad. I want to make this last point. This clearly shows that the Quran is not from God. This is an obvious historical error. Okay, go. Sorry.
Okay, clearly. See, this is what you're not understanding, you kafir. The Quran came to correct everything. So that you come up with your kafir history, your kafir science. Don't you understand that the only true history is Quranic science? That your kafir science and your kafir history contradicts the Quran. I, as a Muslim, must believe in the Quran Because clearly the Quran, and that's what makes the Quran from the Word of God. That is the evidences that the Quran is from the Word of God because it contradicts your Kufar history and science. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's right. And then it's like I said, discussing Shakespearean literature with somebody that is using Charlie Brown as their source. This is what it's like. It is. I mean, I'm serious. This is what it's like. Okay. Did anybody have anything you want to add to that?
I like Charlie Brown. Don't make fun of him.
There's nothing wrong. I mean, Charles Schultz the guy was I would say that he was in his own way a literary genius. Okay, fine. But it's a cartoon. It's not meant
over the Quran or Hadith. Charlie Brown, Dr. Seuss over the Quran.
Charlie Brown over what? What'd you say?
Charlie Brown and Dr. Seuss over the Quran.
Okay, Dr. Seuss would probably be better. There you go. Dr. Seuss, Cat in a Hat. There you go. Okay, that's what it's like, though. I mean, it's just mind-boggling that you try to carry on a serious conversation using the historical method, the historical facts, as a basis for your argument, and you keep inventing these things. Well, it could have been, should have been, kind of. The Injil was bad. Shut up. Good night. It makes you sound moronic. Okay, Dr. Seuss. Come on, Paul. Okay, fine. Okay, Dr. Seuss was a genius too. He was. Okay, fine. He was a genius. But it's a cartoon, for Pete's sake. This is supposed to be a work from God, and it's not. Okay, the golden calf. Ooh, this is one of my favorites. The golden calf, Mount Sinai stuff. They have a Samaritan helping construct this golden calf for the Israelites. This is a problem because the Samaritans did not exist at the time of Moses. Moses was thought to have lived around 1500 BC. The Samaritans did not come into existence as a people until at least when the northern kingdom was carried off in Israel around 722 BC. At least. So this is at least 7 centuries off. And also, again, if you're going to correct the Bible, it wasn't Moses who helped or that built the calf. It was Aaron who built the calf, not Moses. So again, you're number one, you're off as far as your historic, the historicity of this is concerned, where you're saying that that's just wrong. George Carlin is more of a prophet, yeah. Okay, the history of this is just way off. I mean, you cannot have a person from this time period, 1450, 1500 BC, from a people group that did not exist. Muhammad would not have known this. This is a gross historical error. And we know, using the historical method, that the northern kingdom was carried off by the Assyrian Empire. And when the Bible opines upon all of this type of stuff, you have who is this? This is Steve is with us today. Hi, Steve. Good to see you.
Hey, how are you?
I was just going to talk about your song about Muhammad's famous pony ride, magic pony ride, where you changed that. And I had written it down. As a matter of fact, I wrote it down right here, and I got distracted probably by Rad or somebody got me off. But anyway, I was gonna mention that. So, because Steve, what song did you get? Did you copy that from or use that from?
It was from Magic Carpet Ride. It was actually David Wood's idea. I was on his program, and then he got one of his ideas, and it was Magic Donkey Ride. Magic Carpet Ride. And I actually did the song, and Hatun Tash had a big Islamic song contest, and I submitted mine, and she never played it, and so, but yeah, I did have it, and I think I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is though.
Well, if you find it, and just it's hilarious. Yeah, and David's got the evilest mind too when it comes out and taunting Muslims over their crime. He comes. I mean, anybody that would come up with an idea of Islamicize me, that is like a solid month of evil thought going on.
Hey, can I show something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of my outreach videos. I think some of you guys sometimes. Oh yeah, you watch me sometimes when I'm out there in front of the mosque.
Yeah. You'll pop up on my feed, and I'm like, "Well, you'll see what Steve's doing." Oh well, at least they're not cutting his head off. He's good.
Yeah.
If you watch what he does, he goes. This is okay, folks. If you don't know Steve, he goes to a mosque, or no, he doesn't go to the mosque. He sits right outside of a mosque with a cross, and he engages Muslims when they're coming out of their mosque, and he does this live on his Facebook page. And we were because he got into a tuffle one night, and Rad and I had this great idea. Said, okay, well, look, if somebody is going to cut Steve's head off, what we want to do is we want to get this on camera. So we sent him a body cam. We sent him a body cam to capture this. And I'm not sure what happened to the body cam.
You know what? It was like that was. I had fun with that body cam, man. It's like, but this is. Can you show this?
Yeah, go ahead. Are you on the screen? It's on the screen. Go ahead.
It's on the screen. Okay, this was last week here, so I don't know if this is exactly the right. Oh, wait a second. No, sorry. This is my program. This is the one I want to go.
I think you got better intro music than I do. I'm jealous.
You know what? It's stolen. I mean, I
be careful because you saw what happened to Jai's channel.
Yeah, what happened? What is that? I mean, I don't.
There's too many copyright complaints against the channel, and if you get reported for that a certain amount of time, they just terminate your channel altogether.
Oh, really?
And it's the same thing. It's all these trolls out there. That's all they do. They have nothing better to do with their life other than troll your channel and look for things to report you on.
Okay. Shoot.
One thing I don't understand about that is why not just make a response video? If you don't agree with the content, just give liberty and write a response video saying that you disagree with it.
Because they're trolls, Lisa. This is what they do. They're not, and you know this. They're not engaged. They're not interested in engagement.
Okay, but I love you. That's why.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. All right. This guy's got mad at me at the mosque. So
shock.
Because I want you to know that Jesus died for you on the cross.
Listen, well, I don't believe in that now. Now, be respectable.
I am respectable. Respectable.
No, you're doing it right here.
I know I'm doing it here because I love the Muslims.
No,
I want you guys to know the truth about Jesus.
You don't love.
No. Wait a second. I got to go back a little.
No, I do. That's all I want to tell you.
Go back.
Right. Okay, you can ask me, but I'm not going to obey you because
yeah, this guy's trying to get me to leave because in front of the mosque, he says you got to be respectful and stuff like that. I said,
"What are you? Did you become a dhimmi, Steve? Is that what he's assuming?"
He kept saying, "I need you to move because I have a cross." He said, "I need you to move across the street. I need you to move across the street." I was just like, "Well, really? Why? Are you a vampire or what? You know?"
Why? Okay.
Why?
You understand what I'm saying? Do it across the street. Don't do it from the mosque.
Why?
Okay.
The police came and told me I'm okay here.
Listen. I'm asking you.
The police. Okay, you can ask me, but I'm not going to obey you because
you're a religious man.
أنا بحكي عربي. إذا بتحكي عربي بحكي عربي. أنا ممكن أحكي معك بالعربي.
Take it from you. I'm gonna take it from you. I'm asking you.
Now this belongs to me. It's my property. You're not allowed to take it from me.
I'm asking you to.
You're not allowed to take it from me
right now. I'm asking you across the street.
Okay, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay here. Okay.
I'm asking you across the street, my man.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody's watching this right now. They're going to call the police.
I don't give a fuck if they call the police. It's my religious right. I'm asking you across
the street.
Because the police said I could stand here.
No.
Sorry.
The police came and told me I could stay here.
Listen, boy, it don't mean
the police told me I could.
It don't mean that it's right, though.
America.
It don't mean that it's right, man. I'm asking one more time. Take it across the street.
I'm not going to take it.
Okay, I'm telling you right now.
I'm not going to take it.
Don't do that for the.
You see what he did?
Wow.
Yeah, I saw it.
Not nice.
Wow.
Where's this guy from? Is he Arabic? Does he speak Arabic or?
No, he doesn't speak Arabic. He just, like most Muslims, 90% of the Muslims in the world, he doesn't speak Arabic. But
I think we need to get Steve the fart spray we were talking about, dude.
Face guard, you guys.
Did he do anything besides just spit? I mean, did he try to forcibly take that cross, or did anything else happen after this, or it just kind of?
You know, he stayed there for about another 10 minutes and talking, yelling, maybe 5 minutes or so, you know. And then I all of a sudden I freaked out. I thought, oh man, what if he has AIDS? You know?
Yeah, that's exactly.
You know, and
did you call the cops?
I did not call the cops, you know, and but I did go to. It's in front of a restaurant, so I went and washed my face real fast, and so so that's anyway. Nice peaceful afternoon. And
but see, this is. I mean, number one, you heard the type of language that he uses, so this tells you where his heart is, where his spirit is.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I don't care if this, you're saying, look, this is America, we can do this here. And he's like, I don't give an F.
Yeah.
So that just tells you where, if these people, let me be more concise here. If they were to ever gain power in our country, for example, let's say Israel, let's just take Israel as an example. And I know that this is probably personal for you, Steve, if the Palestinians are given right of return and full citizenship within Israel itself, they are going to lose their majority in Israel. Do you think for a second that your right to preach the gospel there would remain?
No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely okay. If they ever get a majority in this country or gain any type of political power, I mean, you see it already. Them trying to, what were they trying to? They were trying to run through the UN a few years ago, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, where they tried to shut down any type of criticism or popular criticism of Muhammad. You can't do that. We're going to make that illegal. Really. And then again, the evil David Wood mind is what hate speech or trying to limit free speech means that you need to exercise more free speech. So let's go ahead and I don't know, make Islamicize me or whatever. Anyway, well, I'm sorry to see that, Steve, but we had a question here. Did you make a police report on this? Did you file a police report at all?
No, I didn't. But I got the guy on camera, and
right.
And I filmed him. I said, and I've had the police come out before there, and a few months ago I went there and I was holding up the cross, and there's a bunch of American communists. They're the communists, and for some reason these guys they hate the cross too. And they were they came up with their posters and just covering the cross. No matter what I do, they would cover the cross. And somebody called the police, and the police came, and they said, they got the right to do that as long as they're not physically touching you, And so it's like, so I've had, but the police was there, and the police told me you have the right to be here, but so do they. And so, they couldn't do nothing at that point. But so that when I was telling that guy that, the police came and told me I could be here, they have, and this is America. And
had you seen this guy before?
I haven't seen him, but I've seen many like him, and I've seen many. For some reason, it's these guys. If they're American, and they seem to get angrier, and they seem to. They're. I kind of felt like, it's after Ramadan. They're feeling so high. They're on the Ramadan high. Like, look what I did. I got all these extra credits on my on my scale, and I've done all this righteousness, and I'm so perfect. And the world has understood how great Islam is, and Ramadan has proved that Islam is the truth. That's how you feel. You feel like, yeah, rock rock and roll, and they go to the mosque and see me standing there with the cross.
Yeah, that's got to be like one of the Debbie Downer things. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve the Ramadan buzzkill, man. Totally takes it out of that, man.
You're harshing
RBK. I like that. Ramadan buzzkill.
Yeah, you're harshing his buzz. Oh my gosh.
Sounds like a song too. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Whatever you guys.
No, that's all right.
About,
we appreciate you. We appreciate that information. Yeah, and pray for his ministry, because this guy, he goes out there and he actually lays it on the line to reach Muslims. He actually, it isn't just here in the United States. He was lived in Palestine,
Gaza,
in Gaza specifically, and he angered some people. They were shooting at you, or to a point, or something along those lines. Shot your guitar. What was it? Did they hit your guitar? What? Anyway, get his book. What's your book's name, Steve?
It's called The Apostate.
There you go. Get his book, and you can read all about that. It's not funny, but if you picture Steve in a van driving through Gaza and people shooting him, he makes it sound funny, but it's not. It's serious stuff. Okay, I got one more chronic error, big old chronic error to go over, and then we'll be done for the day. And it's kind of my favorite one. And whoops, where'd it go? Did I stop sharing? I did stop sharing because there we go. Okay, the lineage of Mary. Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? Well, in the Quran, according to the Quran, Mary is the daughter of Imran, and that would make her the sister of Aaron and Moses, which is really weird because they lived 1500 BC, and Mary was supposed to live in the first century. And it's in three different spots, at least a couple different spots. But if you are going to discuss this, let me just preface this. If you were going to discuss this topic with a Muslim, because you can go to chapter 19, what is it? Chapter 19, chapter 66 and 20, and you can kind of fudge. There's wiggle room there for them. But if you go to chapter 3, there is no wiggle room, because it says as a matter of fact, let me do this. I need to do this. I'm sorry. I was making some real quick corrections prior to the show on this slide, and I didn't put my graphic up here. So I don't make it big enough. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, go back, share, invite, present, go back. Golly, come on. I'm sorry. I hate dead air. I'm sorry. I should have had that fixed for you.
What they said back
there.
There we go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said what was noted back then, they never said sister or brother of. It was always daughter or son of.
Right. And
so that's what they say.
Yep, that's you're stealing my thunder, Darcy, but you're absolutely right. I think that's my last bullet on here. What's that?
So somebody's got to do it.
That's all right. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all. Okay. When you look at the Bible, it has Imran's wife is Jochebed, and it says that she's a Levite who was born a Levi in Egypt. Okay, so that's a problem. The reason why is Mary, number one, lives 1400 years later, but Mary if she is the sister of Aaron, that would make her a Levite. But she's not. She's from the tribe of Judah. So that's a huge problem to begin with. Without even knowing, without even going to the 1400 year problem. But if she's the sister of Aaron, it's referring to her lineage. Let's see here. She's the descendant of David. Okay, and here's the one that Darcy was just talking about. when we look at the Bible, that when they refer to people, it's not sister or brother, it's son or daughter. It's the son or daughter of is what's used in the Bible. So this rescuing device that was developed in the Hadith literature to rescue Muhammad from this grave error, saying that Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the same as the sister of Aaron and Moses, is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you cannot make a bigger, more obvious error than this. And people were at the time, supposedly, according to the Hadith literature, telling Muhammad, say, hey, look, stupid, you're talking about the wrong Maryam. And then they got to come up with that Hadith saying, well, it's just referring to, in the olden times, they referred to each other as brothers and sisters, yada, yada, yada. And it's simply not true. The one thing what other thing was I going to, okay, when you go to chapter 3 does a real good job of laying out the lineage, because in chapter 3 you have Imran, and then it talks about his wife. You don't have that in chapters 19 or 66 or chapter 20. I think the other one was 20. You don't, is it 20? Yeah. In chapter 20, you don't have that. But here in chapter 3, you have Imran, and then it says his wife, and then it says Mary. It goes to Mary. And then if you go to chapters 19 and 66, then you can make the connection between Aaron and Moses. And then it goes on to say that Mary has her son Jesus. This is all in chapter 3, and it talks about Zacharias in chapter 3. So you have a clear connection between Imran, his wife, showing a husband and wife having a child, Mary, and Imran being also the father of Aaron and Moses. So you have this. It's clear as a bell in chapter 3. So if you're going to discuss this, I would say if you're going to discuss this with a Muslim, definitely go to chapter 3 and use that as your source.
And chapter 3, by the way, the name of chapter 3 is Imran. It's called the Surah of Imran. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do I have that? Yeah, Al Imran, right there. Whoops, right there. Al Imran, right there. Duh. Yep, some of us are that smart. Okay. As I said, next week we are going to be Steve, you never guess who I'm debating next week.
Not Kenny.
No. Oh heavens, no. Kenny wouldn't have me in the show. Nadir. I'm bringing Nadir on here. So Nadir is going to be on here next week. We're going to be discussing the crucifixion. And I just did a debate on the crucifixion 3 weeks ago. And so there's really not a lot of preparation going on here. There's a couple things I'm going to take a look at. But for the most part, I think, the history speaks for itself. And that's where I'm basically the direction I'm going to be going with that. But there's other debate topics that I've thrown out there that I would like to do.
Steve. I nominate Steve for the moderator of that debate.
Oh, please.
I don't know. Let me.
There's an idea.
Let me see if Nadir's replied. No. Here's what I wrote to him. I said, sorry to hear your opinion of Issa. Because I was going to ask if he wanted Issa to be a moderator, and he's like, no, I don't want Issa. And I said, well, why not have Miss Shirks a lot be the moderator? He hasn't replied to that. Because I think
why does he want Issa to be the moderator?
He didn't say. Well, hold on, let me look. He doesn't say. We'll get it worked out one way or another. Okay, some debate topics in the future that I'm trying to nail down. See if we can get a debate on Mecca. Do we find Mecca in the Bible, or do we find Mecca period prior to the 7th century? That'd probably be a better one.
Or do we find Mecca? Or do we find Mecca in the Quran?
See, that's a good question.
Well, it's only once, but we had John Isaac on here, and Steve, you would know this. Okay, so because John said that if you have the letter M for Mecca, and it's got like I don't know, if you put like a tail on it, some type of round tail or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the B.
Yeah.
If you can change a B to an M by adding like a tail to it.
Right. A circle.
So you can change it from Becca to Mecca.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know Arabic, so I couldn't possibly argue that position at all. But it does make perfect sense that because it's only mentioned in the Quran one time.
Yeah, and
it's just an unimportant place. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to say that with the Mecca Becca thing, it's mentioned one time. It's misspelled B, and it's the most important city of and what they do though, when they translate into English, that's when they add they change, like it says, the mother of all cities. That's what it's called, like the mother of cities and all this stuff, to where you have it a bunch of times. But and in the English they just say Mecca, but in the Arabic it doesn't. So. Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't the mother of all cities appear on a map until 900 AD? Because if it's the mother. Well, it could be in Captain Obvious. Yeah, I mean it doesn't exist. It's not mentioned anywhere until 741 by name anyway. 741, and that's over 100 years after Muhammad. So that's one of the topics I'd like to do, or maybe Muhammad in the Bible. That would be maybe get Sam Shimon to debate him on that again. This is one that would be a lot of fun. Muhammad, who is a better, more reliable prophet, Muhammad or Paul? Oh, that could get interesting. This is one that I've offered up a million times and nobody has ever taken me up on it. Is the Quran from God? And again, does the Quran claim that the Bible has been corrupted? So if you're a Muslim and you're watching this stream, if you want to debate any of those topics, just contact me at ericfeckefer@gmail.com, and I would be glad to set something up with you. All right, we are at the end of the show, folks. Does anybody have anything that they want to add?
I'll debate anybody on, is the Quran if you consider the Quran clear, I'll take the view that it's clear as mud.
Clear as mud. Okay.
Actually, it says that, which is really funny. In Surah 3, it actually says that the Quran, in some of it, are clear verses, the al-Kitab, and the other verses are unclear. And if you try to understand it, you have a diseased heart. So,
I think that was at the end of my presentation last week, where maybe at the beginning of it, where I was showing, because that's a clear contradiction, where it says it's clear, and then
but
some of it that's clear, and there's other or not clear.
Here's the punchline. The scholars sort of all agree that the al-Kitab in the Quran, the clear part, is only the first surah al-Fatiha. So that means the rest of the Quran, including the verse that says there are clear verses, is unclear. And if you try to understand it, it's in your heart. Yeah.
In preparation for your debate with Nadir, you know what I would encourage you to do is to get a bunch of olive oil and then let someone spill it between your hands. Okay, like this, just like to spill it and then have it like spilling into your hand like that, and try to stop the flow of it, and see what happens to it. Just because that's how it is to debate Nadir Ahmed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he, tell you the truth, I've debated him once and stuff. I don't think he believes anything. And every time you try to get something, he's just like, he weaseled over there and did something. And so there's a verse in the Bible that says, as oil bewrayeth itself. It's like you try to stop something, but you can't, because it keeps
nailing Jenny to a wall. Is that the other kind of?
Did you hear his argument about the mustard seed? He made an argument on modern day debates trying to say that the New Testament is not scientific. And he said that the mustard seed is not the small seed. I'm like, dude, it's a spiritual saying. Like, it's obviously not meant to be. But he's like, look, this is how the New Testament is false. They claim the mustard seed is this, and he kept going on.
And the Quran
point.
says,
Like,
the same thing, though. You know, that's what Christian Prince showed him. Said almost said the same thing. So.
It's just insane. I'm like, why are you?
I've seen him. And I'm sorry, Issa, but I've seen him argue the scientific miracles in the Quran before, and it's hard to watch because when he said the thing that disproved the Bible was, he got down to how do you determine a woman's virginity, and he was saying that. Anyway, I'm not. It's just. I'll have to do voodoo if I start talking about it. Okay.
I want to add one other thing too that I thought was bizarre is that he wants to attack the Bible, but Islamic tradition, particularly he's taking an Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah position, a Sunni position, which says that the Bible and the New Testament and the Torah are not corrupted, right? Only the interpretation of the people is corrupted, but the text itself is not corrupted. That's the Islamic position for Sunnis. So I don't understand this like tahrif argument that they keep, the corrupted argument. It doesn't work. What it does is it would be creating a heretical position in Islamic understanding, I think.
Well, I would say that the actual Quran corrupted the Bible. The other way around. It's like you have more stories like that, like just don't make any sense in the Quran, like history wise is like.
Did I send you a pre-copy of my book, Dominic? Because that's the thesis of my book, is how the Quran tries to corrupt the Bible.
No, because I would say the Book of Mormon is probably more accurate than the Quran Museum.
Well, at least the Book of Mormon is only a few hundred years off, not 1,000 here and 1,000 there. It's chronologically inept, just like the Quran, but at least they attempt to get things in order, and the Quran can't get them in chronological order.
But it was given by the angel Gabriel, the Book of Mormon. So why not do they have a problem with it?
It's the same angel. It's the same perversions. Jabril. So Joe is their prophet Mo.
But no, why not is he wrong?
Well, Mormonism is when we start looking at Mormonism and contrasting, comparing to Islam, it's the similarities are just all right
when
there.
I teach Islam last, and when I'm done teaching Mormonism, when I'm done teaching Islam, all the students are like, "Oh my gosh!" I let the students do the comparisons. I just sit there and listen, and it's funny.
Yeah, kids are perfectly capable of drawing those conclusions, and it happens.
I was talking to adults, but yeah.
Oh, you're talking. Well, I'm just saying. When I was teaching history, I would have to teach Joseph Smith, the Mormon Trail, and
you got junior high, yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about how we expanded westward, and the Mormons were played a relatively big role in that comparatively.
Yeah, we don't even touch on that in high school.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add to the fire? Anything announcements they want to come up and say?
Just let's go, Brandon. And don't forget to subscribe to Jay. And
I was just going to bring that up. Yep. Go ahead and get over there and subscribe to that channel. They have great content and very knowledgeable people. And they're folks. They speak the language like Steve does. It's important. What are you drinking there? What is that, Steve?
This is Arabic coffee my wife made for. Armenian coffee. Sorry. It's Armenian coffee. It's Armenian, not Arabic coffee.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. All right, everybody. Again, thank you for coming to the show today. Remember, next week we're having a debate, so put the word out to your friends and let them know that we're going to be talking about the crucifixion once again. And that's all I have. And again, everybody in chat, we had a lot of people in chat today. Thank you for coming and opining there. It's always It's always great reading your information there. What does this say? Which shows that the crown is limited to himself. He's, yeah. So much. It's like low hanging fruit. It is like trying to discuss Shakespeare and Hamlet with somebody that is using Dr. Seuss. And I know Dr. Seuss is a genius. Those Charles Schultz and the Peanuts, but it's just hard. All right. God bless everybody, and we will see you next week on the Cross and the Crescent. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Right.